I've been playing airsoft for about 5 years now, and over the years you become more familiar with particular brands. I started my airsoft adventure with a Tokyo Marui VSR and then a Tokyo Marui High Kappa. They were fantastic starter platforms, and although playing with a sniper rifle as your first gun isn't a great idea, it was a quality product and it performed well for me. And this took me down the road of upgrading, and with Tokyo Marui's quality, it lasted a long time and it shot really well. Now, Tokyo Marui make a wide range of products, and they also make a great AEG series called the Next Generation Recoil System, or NGRS. These come in the forms of both M4s and AKs and various variants. And the point of these guns is that they have recoil and a degree of realism to them whilst being battery powered as opposed to gas. Now, I'm personally more of a gas person, but I am open to a good AEG, and I'm always happy to see innovation and change. So in the last few months, Tokyo Marui announced that they were finally going to release an MP5 that belonged to the next generation recoil shock family. This was a very welcome surprise to many. They had been waiting sometimes years for this product, and we finally had it. So I ordered myself one and it has arrived, and so today we are going to review the MP5. So let's start with the TM MP5 unboxing. So I'm having to stand up to do this video, as this is the biggest thing I've had on my little yellow desk, and although I could put this on a bigger white table like I will be doing for other reviews, it's just about big enough for my screen, so I thought I'd show it here. Now, I have seen people open these, and I do already know a fair bit about the gun. However, we are going to still get my initial first impressions of touching it and how I feel. So let's start with opening it. It's got a nice sort of carbon fibery looking texture. Lift off the lid here. And there we have the first thing you'll see. Just quickly, under the lid, we have our instruction manual. No one will ever read this, and it's probably why they hide it under the lid, so that you can easily neglect it. And so here we have our MP5. We have the gun itself, securely put in with 3 bands. We have our magazine, which is a 72 round magazine. It also comes with a fake mag for some odd reason. Be nice if it came with 2 magazines. And then we also have this, which is a barrel adapter to allow us to mount suppressors with a 14mm counterclockwise. And then finally we have some Tokyo Marui 0.2 gram BBs, which I will probably never use ever. So let's see about getting the gun itself out. Actually, then I think about it, maybe it's best we should go over the magazine first. Here is the mag, a 72 round mag. It has a nice weight to it. It doesn't feel like Cyma MP5 mags that I've held before, which were a bit lightweight and low quality. I don't feel like I can bend this with my hand, and although I'm not very strong, still feels very sturdy. It's got a plastic top, which is a little rattly. It has here a BB stopper. I assume this is used to alert the gun when your magazine is empty, because it does have an empty feature, which we'll go over later. We have some nice trades here. 9mm by 19. Overall, a very nice mag. I do need to order some more, but pretty happy. And now the gun itself. I'm going to lovingly take off its hop-up tag. Wow. Very solid. It immediately has quite some weight to it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the box, and we'll move back to our vanilla yellow table for the rest of our impression. So here we have our TM MP5, and I have to say I am pleasantly surprised by its plastics. Now, with some Tokyo Marui guns, we have very cheap polymers and plastics, but none of that is present with this gun. They are very solid, nice to the touch, clearly some nice polymer, and there's no creaking, there's little to no wobble, and as for seam lines, there are some seam lines, but I like it a lot. We have some nice engravings with nice paintwork on our selector switch there. It's very nice to see. Duplicated on the other side, ambidextrous. A mag release here, a mag release here. We have our bolt here, which will be moving. It has a little sticker over it now. Our retractable stock, which does closed and then all the way open. It doesn't do anything in between, just to let you know. But at full closed, no wobble, all the way open. A small amount of wobble, more side to side than up and down, which is good when you shoulder it. If you had to pick a wobble, that would be the ideal wobble to have. At the front, we have our tri-lug system, like genuine MP5s. This doesn't unscrew, that is the way it is. And this is our handguard and our charging handle. So we can finally do the thing we've all been waiting for me to do, and that's to give it a good HK slap. For those who don't know, that's when you pull the charging handle back and then you hit it to send it back forward. Very nice. And when we pull back the charging handle, our bolt comes back here, and you can see our hop-up in there. It is a dial hop-up. You turn it this way to apply more hop, I believe. You will need either small feminine hands like me, or a good nail or tool to adjust it. Overall, very impressed, very happy on first impressions. The metal as well. Not sure if this is steel, but I do like it. The engravings are quite sweet. It has a serial number, HK MP5 written on there. We have some nice little rear iron sights here, which do change. They do click into place, nice and positively. Not hard to change either. Front, I guess this is the front gas block. No wobble here, totally sound. And then the selector switch. This is a big part of guns for me. Very firm. That's really nice. And something that a lot of people don't know about AEGs is sometimes the reverse side. So whilst this is the right hand side, you would typically use this if you were a left hand user, is actually not the same as the other side, the main side. So I'm just going to see if that actually is the same. Certainly, as I expected, a bit stiffer on the other side, but still positive, and also not impossible. This is also a piece I expect to break in. I don't expect it to stay this way forever, and if I'm honest, I would expect that to be a lot nicer over time, and nicer than it already is. The trigger cannot be pulled in safe, but it can be in fire modes. What I also like is the new TM MP5 uses a micro switch system for its trigger, rather than, say, trigger contacts. I'll see if I can get you to hear that. This is a good change. It makes for a much nicer shooting experience. So I'll be showing that off later when I do some shooting tests. And as I said earlier, due to this being an NGRS system, there is a degree of realism when it comes to reloading this. So just like a real MP5, when you go to chamber a new round with an empty barrel, you will need to pull back your charging handle, grab your magazine, put the mag in, and then send the bolt home. When you do this, you chamber your bullet, and then you are able to fire. And it is no different with the NGRS system by Tokyo Marui. I think this is super cool to see from an AEG. It's also very cool that this needs to be done every time you completely drain a magazine. So you fire a magazine during a skirmish, it runs empty, your gun will stop firing. You will pull the trigger and nothing will happen. You'll then need to pull out the mag, put in a new one, charge it, and you'll be able to shoot again. So I think it's about time to check battery space and give this thing a little test shoot. So to get the handguard off, you need to pop out this front pin. It pops out from the right hand side. Pin comes completely out, and off comes our handguard. And here is our mini Tamiya connection. And here we have a little label which says something in a language I will probably never learn because I'm incompetent Englishman. And this is our battery space. It has a little hook here. I assume this hooks onto the body to keep it into place firmly. And I actually have a battery here that will fit. This is a 7.4 volt LiPo, 2200 mAh at 30C. This fits very well in the handguard according to other users, so I'm just going to put that in now. There we go. Nice and snug. Now we'll see about connecting it up and getting it in there. Cable management seems okay. Put our pin back in the reverse order. There we have battery inside. Now, because there is nothing put into the chamber, we will need to cock it for it to fire. So in theory, now because we haven't put anything into the chamber, the gun will not fire on semi-auto, despite a battery being installed. So we will need to cock it in order to fire. Now, if we cock it without anything loaded, it will only fire one shot in theory. So let's see if that's true. There we go. As advertised, as expected. Mag in. Bolt. Good. This is as expected. So when we put BBs into this, it will continue to fire, but for the sake of demonstration, what you can do is if you prefer not to have this bolt feature, you can cancel it. All you have to do is pull the charging handle 3 times in quick succession, and doing so will put in a small blue light in the bottom of your magwell. And this allows the gun to be fired without anything in the chamber or any magazine in. You could just shoot as little or as much as you like. I have to say, first shooting, it shoots and cycles very quickly. Very satisfying. 3-round burst. And in full auto. A very, very satisfying little test shoot. So on initial first impressions out the box, I am very impressed. The build quality is great, the selector is nice, the trigger pulls well, the magazines are of a nice weight, the finish is lovely. I'm very impressed, and I'm even impressed by Tokyo Marui for this. Now, they always deliver quality guns, but this seems a bit of a step ahead of their typical NGRS system. The trigger is more responsive, it doesn't whine, the plastics are nice, the engravings are even nicer. There's a lot going for it. So now I'm going to take this to my garden, and we're going to do some FPS tests on different weights. So, it's been a few months now, and I've actually had quite a lot of hands-on experience with the Tokyo Marui MP5. I filmed the unboxing and the FPS tests quite a few months ago now, and since then I've played a single game day with this, and I've shot it a lot more in my spare time, and I think I've come to a point now where I've got a a very fair and good understanding judgment of how I find this gun. In this setup is actually how I ran it at my local skirmish. I ran this at a combat zone in Lincoln in the UK, and I ran it with my Vortex UH1 on top. Also, a very cool factor was I found that this cheap Cyma metal wrist rail did attach to it just perfectly. It allows me to mount any optic that would mount to a traditional 20mm wrist sort of rail. So the UH1 fits on there very, very awesomely. And so I turned up to the day, I had all my batteries charged, I had I think 7 mid-cap magazines on me, and I was a bit anxious. I was a bit nervous to play, and the main reason was I've not used an AEG for quite some time, and I have seen lots of situations where people's AEGs would go down, and that always kept me quite nervous. But anyway, I rocked up to Chrono and passed Chrono comfortably with a 0.25 grams, so I was only shooting about 0.75 joule, nothing too crazy. Our limit in the UK for that sort of feel with a gun with full auto is 1.1 joules, so I was quite significantly under. However, despite all this and despite my nerves, I actually had an amazing day, and it was all down to this gun. The range on just a 0.25 gram is incredible. It's obvious that TM have optimized the hop-up unit and the bucking and everything about the output end of this gun to be perfect for 0.25 gram BBs. Sure, there was some deviation from things like wind, but honestly, it gave me some pretty incredible results. Even with my dual output and using 0.25 grams, I was just able to scrape 50 meters, which I think is actually pretty insane. I think if I were to upgrade the hop-up and give a bit more power output to be 1.1 joule, I'd definitely be able to scrape that extra 10 meters for a 60 meter hit. I also found that with the trigger, I was able to make really quick follow-up shots. It was super fun just blasting through rounds with it. I never had a moment where the gun jammed up or had any issues or broke or stopped working. In fact, it was actually totally flawless throughout the entire day. As for the body, there is some scraping here of the paint on the stock. You can just sort of see that there. But other than that, nothing too drastic. The stock still comes out like butter, and everything still functions fine. One thing I will say though that did occur that actually does have me a bit apprehensive is under here you can actually see the mold marks of the stock, and this is when they make molds for these two sides of the underhand guard, and they fuse them together by quite literally just sort of melting them together under here. I found that as I was changing batteries throughout the day, which I only had to do once, at one point this mold mark did split ever so slightly on this rear end here. Now it's not actually present now because the receiver is held in together pretty tight with it, but it did just split just a little hair, which does make me think if you did this enough it could come apart. So I'm actually a bit concerned about that. I guess if I really wanted to, I could melt this together with a lighter and hope for the best, but it's a bit concerning given the price of the gun and that it's, you know, technically a sort of a high stress part because it's a part I'm constantly going to be putting batteries into. So I'd just be wary of that. On the topic of batteries, throughout my game day, I usually change battery at the middle of the day. So get there in the morning, play until the middle of the day, have lunch, change batteries, and then go back out again. I didn't have to change batteries, I just wanted to. I didn't notice any dip or change in performance when I went from the old battery to the new one. It stayed consistent with its cycle speed. When I got home and I went to balance check my batteries, I found that both of them were almost identical and they were both on about 35% remaining charge. And during that day, I probably went through, I want to say, an easy about 4,000 rounds. I went through quite a lot of these stick mags. These hold 72 rounds each, and I was blasting through them. And it's very easy to do with this trigger, and it's also very easy to do because you are having such a good time. On the topic of the recoil,
It actually wasn't something I really noticed. And by that, I mean, I didn't notice it kicking into the back of my shoulder, but I did hear it, and it also made the gun sound great, and it got me lots of looks. So it was very fun, and I guess I did notice it, but maybe not in the way you would think from a gun that advertises as having recoil. As for that, I also gave my gun to a few people at the Krona range to get their impressions, and everybody was actually very impressed. Some people were a bit apprehensive because of the FPS and dual output, but I think that's to be expected with any TM gun. It's just sort of part of the deal. And this can also be changed later. Something I will mention, this is more just sort of a me problem, but it's something to keep in mind if you're planning on picking one of these up. I would constantly forget to charge this charging handle. I would run out of a mag, I'd pull the trigger, and it wouldn't cycle, and that's because obviously I need to change magazine. So I would change magazine, put in a new one, pull the trigger, and nothing would happen again. And it's because I would constantly forget the manual of arms of charging this charging handle. And that's just something you're going to get into the habit of. It actually took me a long time to realize that on the day. I'd end up doing really awkward reloads where I would take the mag out, put in a new one, and then I would have to charge it after the fact. And this was that's not really the way to do it. The way to do it would be to charge, take out a mag, put in a new mag, and then let it go. That would be the sort of optimal way to do it. I guess you can do it whichever way you want, but it certainly didn't feel like the correct way to change mag and then charge it. So just something to keep in mind. It's actually nothing to do with the gun. It's just me not being used to something that is an M4 shaped. And that's another thing to just touch on quickly. I guess this is more of a comment about MP5s, generally speaking, rather than just specifically this brand, this gun, this model. I actually really enjoyed the ergonomics. The ambidextrous selector is very useful if you're changing hands on a corner or just to alternate from which shoulder you're using. I love the form factor. It's no secret that there's not a lot of me. I'm a short and skinny guy, and so this gun very much suits my form. And I think that's something to be careful of because I know there are bigger guys out there that struggle with smaller guns, and this is considerably small. On that sort of topic, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but the stock actually isn't multiple adjustments like the real MP5. The real MP5 adjusts, I think, to 5 separate positions, including fully closed and fully open, so that means there are 3 in between. The TM MP5 actually only has 2 options, and that's fully closed or fully open. And whilst there is just a little bit of wobble, it wasn't anything I noticed when I had it open. I did run it all the way open, but it's something you should consider if you're someone with a particular type of cheek weld and eye relief that you want. There are only 2 positions, and I don't think there's anybody in the world who is shouldering this with it all the way closed. So something to keep in mind. So I think we should just wrap up to a conclusion here. How did I actually find this gun? I actually love this platform. I find it to be super rewarding, super consistent, and just incredibly fun. That was the thing I kept taking away from this, was just how much fun I was having for such little effort. And I understand it's an effort to save the money to buy a gun like this, and also this optic is no joke. It's ridiculous that I have an optic that costs more than the gun. But you don't need that. You just need the gun and a couple magazines, and it was so worth it. It's actually a gun that I plan on keeping for a significant amount of time. What's happening with this gun now is I'm sending it to Jeppe, my business partner, and he's just going to check 1 or 2 things on the insides that we're keeping under our hood at the moment. But I was actually quite keen for him to send it back once he's done. He's not really interested in playing with it, but I am, and I actually would like it back just because I want to keep playing with it. And it's nice to have a gun that feels very reliable and very consistent. So yes, I would definitely recommend buying this gun if it's something you're interested in and have the budget for. There are very few negatives, and another thing to notice is this gun is early in its life cycle. There are going to be new parts and new variations. It's only a matter of time until TM brings out 10mm mags, or different handguards, or different optic mounts, or even different versions of the MP5, and here's hoping they release an SD variant. If you like this type of video, please let me know. This was quite a short and quick review, but I think that just sort of suits the gun. It's just a very nice, quick bit of fun. Comment below if this is sort of the type of gun you like. Are you a fan of MP5s, or is there an SMG you would prefer? If you'd like to subscribe, I would encourage doing so. We have a lot of upcoming videos. I'm trying to aim for 1 a week now, and whilst it is definitely not as easy as I thought, it's proving to be very rewarding, so I'm trying to keep up with that. In the description, I will also be putting a link to my shop where I sell parts for airsoft guns. We will actually soon be selling a part that might fit inside this, so just keep your eyes out for that. There's also a link to the store that I bought this from. It's Eagle 6 Airsoft. I'm very grateful that they were managed to hook me up with one of these as quickly as they possibly could, so worth shouting them out. And other than that, I look forward to seeing you in the next week's viewing.